adjectives and adverbs for comparisons, when to use this, that, these, and those, when to use than and when to use then, very important, and we'll end, as always, with some practice. All right. First things first, what are adjectives? What are adverbs? Quick review. Adjectives are words that describe nouns or pronouns. They may come before the word they describe or after. So, for example, that is a cute kitten. Cute is the adjective describing kitten. You could also say that kitten is cute. Cute is the predicate nominative, an adjective describing kitten from the other side of a linking verb. Is. All right, so what's an adverb? Adverbs modify pretty much everything else. They modify adjectives, verbs, and other adverbs. So whenever you're trying to remember what modifies what, just remember adjectives and verbs are modified by adverbs. Adverbs answer the questions how, when, and where. It's the how adverbs that cause grammatical problems. Those are the ones that most often end in ly. So if you look at the example sentence, bang the drum slowly. Slowly is our adverb, and it modifies the verb bang. How do we bang the drum? Slowly. Similarly, she thinks fast. Fast is an adverb modifying the verb thinks. How do we think? Fast. And finally, I performed badly on the test. Badly is an adverb modifying the verb performed. How did I perform? Badly. Now, you might be asking yourself, why doesn't fast end in ly? Well, just because there's no such word in English as fastly. There isn't. Sorry. There's quickly, but no fastly. We just don't say it. Oh, English, never stop being insane. Next, generally, if a word answers the question how, it is an adverb. If it can have ly added to it, put it there. So, not fastly. Cheetahs move quickly. Quietly, she crept into the room. Quick by itself would be an adjective. Stick on the ly and it becomes an adverb. Quiet by itself would be an adjective. Stick on the ly and it becomes an adverb. And in this case, quickly modifies move. How do they move? They move quickly. And quietly modifies crept. How did she creep? She crept quietly. Now, this rule changes if the verb in the sentence is some form of to taste, to smell, to look, or to feel. If the verb is being used actively, as in to describe the exercise of that sense, then go ahead and use an adverb after it. So, for example, humans see well but smell poorly. Here we're talking about how humans actually use their noses. You could substitute sniff for smell. So you use the ly form for smell. You could also say he looked angrily at the mess on the floor. He physically looked with his eyes, pointed his face and his eyes, made an angry face. He looked angrily at the mess on the floor. But if the verb is not being used actively, if it's a linking verb basically that could be replaced with an equal sign, then you use the adjective. So the manure smelled terrible. Okay, manure equals terrible. You're not talking about how the manure used its nose, because it doesn't have a nose. At least I certainly hope manure doesn't have a nose. That would be horrible. Similarly, he looked angry about the mess. In this case, angry is an adjective modifying he. How did he look? He looked angry. He appeared angry. He was angry. He equals angry. All right, when do you use good and when do you use well? Good, 99 times out of 100, is an adjective. Very occasionally, it's a noun meaning good things, but we're not going to talk about that in this lesson. If you're debating whether, if you're modifying a verb or a noun, you're pretty much going to have to use either the adjective or the adverb form. Good is an adjective, well is an adverb. So, I did a good job on the test. Good is an adjective modifying the noun job. What kind of job? A good job. But you could also say, I did well on the test. How did I do? I did well. You smell good today. Okay. You, linking verb, good today. So it's modifying the pronoun you, so you use the adjective. But you smell well for someone with a cold. In this case, well is modifying the verb smell. In what manner do you smell? Well. So you smell well for someone with a cold. All right, there is another exception to this. When you are referring to physical health, use well rather than good. When you are referring to emotional state, use good. This is with the verb feel. So, I had a cold last week, but now I feel well. I feel healthy. Or, I feel good about my decision to study grammar. I am in a good place emotionally. Just because well and good wasn't complicated enough. All right, comparisons. When you are comparing two things, using an adjective, saying that one thing is more or less than something else, use the ER form, the comparative. When you are comparing three or more things, use the EST form, the superlative. So, for example, Snow White is very fair. In this sentence, we're talking about Snow White all by herself, so we use the adjective fair. But in the second sentence, Snow White is fairer than the evil queen. Okay, fairer is now a comparative because we're comparing two people, Snow White and the evil queen. So we use the comparative form fairer. But Snow White is the fairest woman in the land. Well, now we're comparing Snow White to all the other women in the country, and we'll just assume for the purposes of argument that there's more than two women in the country, so we use EST, the superlative. Now, to make a comparison using ly adverbs, never drop the ly. Use more and most instead. Occasionally you can turn that y into an I and add the es or er or est, but generally speaking, use more and most. So, Snow White sang sweetly. Well, now it's an adverb modifying sang. Snow White sang more sweetly than the queen, or of all the women in the land, Snow White sang most sweetly. Once again, we're assuming there's more than two women in this country. Probably a safe bet. All right, this, that, these, and those. When this, that, these, and those are followed by nouns, they are adjectives. When they appear without a noun following them, they are pronouns, and you should treat them accordingly. So, this book is my favorite. This is my favorite book. In the first sentence, this book, this is an adjective modifying book. In the second sentence, this is a pronoun sitting there all by itself, so it's the subject of the sentence, and you treat it accordingly. This and that are always singular, whether as pronouns or adjectives. This is nearer physically than that. So, that house over there is his, and this is my house over here. That house is farther away than this house. These and those are always plural. These are nearer than those. So, these glasses are mine. Those cows look skinny. All right, when do you use than and when do you use then? Use than to show comparison. Just remember the A in than goes with the A in compare. Use then to answer the question when. Just remember they both end in hen. They're one letter apart. So, I run faster than you. I am comparing how I run to how you run. Tomorrow is the big race. Then, at that time, when, then, we will see who runs faster. All right, let's do a little practice. Choose the correct word to complete each sentence. That's a real or really big fish. Those cookies smell delicious or deliciously. She feels bad or badly about your unhappy news. Did you do good or well at your recital? I think you dance more skillfully or skillfullier than anyone else I know. Mount Everest is the taller or tallest mountain on earth. This dog is or are a German Shepherd. Those statues was or were carved in ancient Greece. You think you're better than or than anybody else. And first we'll go swimming, then or then we'll get something to eat. Take a good look. Pause the video if you need to. You ready? Here we go. That's a really big fish. You use the adverb form because it's modifying big. How big? Really big. You never say, that's a real big fish, unless you didn't pay attention in school. Next, those cookies smell delicious. You use the adjective form because smell is basically a linking verb connecting cookies to delicious. You would say deliciously if that was the manner in which cookies used their noses. But cookies don't have noses. Therefore, smell is not being used actively. Therefore, it's being used as a linking verb. Therefore, you want an adjective there. Next, she feels bad about your unhappy news. Bad is describing an emotional state. So just as you would use good if she were in a happy emotional state, you use bad when she's thinking about unhappy news. She would only feel badly if her sensory organs of touch, which is to say her skin, was in some way out of order. But since we're talking about her emotional state, at hearing your unhappy news, we're pretty sure we need bad. Next, did you do well at your recital? Again, it's modifying the verb do, so you say do well. I think you dance more skillfully than anyone else I know, just because there's no such English word as skillfullier. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth. I sincerely hope you know that there are more than 2 mountains on the planet Earth. Therefore, you're comparing 3 or more things. Therefore, you use est. This dog is a German Shepherd. This is singular, so you use the singular verb is. Those statues were carved in ancient Greece. Those is plural, so you use the plural verb were. You think you're better than anybody else. We're doing a comparison, so we use than with an A. And finally, first we'll go swimming, then we'll get something to eat. We use the version that's 1 letter off from when because we're talking about a time. When will we get something to eat? Then we'll get something to eat. And that's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching. Educator.com.